All right, so for the folks that are coming in, I try to make my talks super interactive. So as you can see, people have already like scanned the QR code and already kind of like interacting with the talk. So feel free to scan the QR code and we can get started. A couple minutes. All right. Hey, how y'all doing? So yeah, feel free, again, scan the QR code. We'll have more of that a bit later. How's everybody doing? So, well, before I start this off, please make some noise for the good folks of Øredev, the staff, the venue, the sponsors for helping make this happen. So make some noise, please. And make some noise for yourselves for coming to such a super dope event, coming out to Sweden. Because it's dope when, like, I'm from Florida, and to come to Øredev, Sweden in November, it has to be something special. So please make some noise for yourselves. Because I've never been so layered up before in my life. Like, this is, all right. So, this talk, well, where'd it go? Where's my mouse? Here you go. Cool. So now, hi, I am Dwane. I'm a JavaScript developer advocate at Vonage. And Vonage is a company where we provide developers access to be able to add real-time communications to their applications. So I'm talking about like video calls, voice calls, sending SMS, WhatsApp, Facebook, Messenger, Viber, all sorts of things. Even being able to allow people to send silly emojis to your slides. So anything, we help make that happen. Any slide that has like a QR code, you'll be able to kind of like catch up. So if you don't have it now, that means it's an indication to know that, hey, you could do something with the slides or interact somehow. All right, cool. Now, the talk is whatever happened with web components, right? And I like to timestamp kind of my talks because as with anything on the web, as we know, it changes, right? And so this talk kind of has that built into it because whenever you think about like whatever happened to something, you kind of comparing it to another time, right? And so what I did was I actually looked back through the Øredev directory, like archive, and I've actually found another talk about web components. So shouts to Philip Beck Larson. He spoke about web components. So web components are your framework's best friend back in 2019. So I'm going to kind of talk about some of the stuff that he spoke about then and how it is now. Cool? All right. And I have a link to the YouTube, so you'll be able to check out the slides later, so don't have to take any notes or anything. All right, so first, who's heard of web components? Oh, that's kind of, yeah, there, appreciate it, thanks. That's why we have the whole slide situation with the QR code, so. I appreciate you raising hands, though. I appreciate the physical activity, but, that's with QR codes. All right. Give a couple more seconds. So I'm glad the slides are actually changing for you. So it's a good indication. So I'm glad that's working because otherwise that'd be terrible. So, all right, cool. So a lot of people have heard of web components. Very nice. More importantly, though, how do you feel about web components? Got a lot of meh. All right, getting some love. Okay, very nice, very nice. I'm sorry about the cry face. You can always reach me afterwards because I want to hear that story. I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly. So you ruined it. Now somebody's mad. All right, but hopefully by the end of this, you'll feel a little bit better about it, all right? Cool. So back then, browser support. So you can see here, we're talking about Edge, and he had the polyfill, all these things. It was all right, but a lot of the major browsers was already good. But, Edge was always kind of always kind of taking a little bit longer, right? But now, we have full support for web components in all major browsers. And there's also, you can even do if you need to support like IE 11 or 8, there's polyfills. Why would you support that? Microsoft doesn't even support it. So you need to talk to whoever's using it. Be like, hey, you're skating on thin ice there. All right, cool, very nice. So let's talk about the specs and things that kind of create web components. So there's the custom elements API, there's a shadow DOM, there's a template API, and there's ES modules. So initially, there was things called HTML imports But then browsers like, nah, fam, we're not down with that. So we have ES modules, and it's basically, you do like you have to do that type module whenever you like do a script tag and all that stuff, and then you can like import things into your code. That's basically that. So right now we don't really talk about ES modules because it's kind of just importing some JavaScript into your code, which is pretty much like universal. But I want to go over the other ones, the custom elements, the shadow DOM, and the HTML templates. So the custom elements, like some of the rules are that you need, your element's name needs to have a hyphen. So no single word elements, because everybody would have like an image tag or an H1, and that would just be weird, right? So you must have a hyphen or a dash, also known as kebab case. What the custom elements API does, you create an object that describes the behavior of your component, your web component. And then what's cool is you can actually extend, let's say you're making a super cool button. So super hyphen cool hyphen button. Well, then you're able to extend from the HTML button element and then be able to get all the goodness from the actual button element. So you're not like starting from scratch. But a lot of times you'll start from just like the regular HTML element, but we'll see that in an example. So the custom elements API can take the actual behavior of your web component and tie it in with the name that has the hyphen. So that's what that does. So that when the browser sees your my hyphen super hyphen cool hyphen button, it knows kind of like what to do with it by loading the JavaScript there. Cool. Now the shadow DOM. You can think of the shadow DOM as kind of like a pocket universe. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a little side universe where it's almost like the anybody Doctor Who fans? So like the TARDIS is bigger on the inside kind of thing. So you never tell because you won't need to, but going inside, you're like, oh, there's a whole new world. So that's kind of like the shadow DOM. It provides encapsulation for your actual web component. So that means it won't leak out into the actual outer application unless you want to. And we'll talk about that. Paul Lewis, super engineer, described it as containing the gross, like of your code, because we all know our code can kind of get gross at some point. So the outer application, the people using it won't even need to know about it because it's all encapsulated in the shadow DOM. And what I really like about the shadow DOM API is that you can remap events so they're more meaningful to the outer application, right? So let's say you have like a voting app and you want to let the outer application know that somebody has voted. So let's say it happens with a submit. Well, other parts of your application could have submits. So that's not really meaningful. But with the shadow DOM API, you can turn that submit and rename it or remap it into like a voted event. So then that's more meaningful to the outer application. So like, oh, okay, this came from this application, voted, I know what to do with that now. So it makes a little bit more sense. All right, HTML templates. This is pretty cool because has anybody ever used the template tags before? You know they're coming pretty handy, right? Because you can have like a whole lot of markup. If you only put it between the template tags, the browser doesn't care about it. It doesn't even think about it. It just like skips over it. So it's kind of like a way of being able to just have a whole structure of your web component ready to go, and it's not going to be rendered until you do some JavaScript to clone it. And so, like it says, it's used to efficiently render HTML and update it when the user interacts with our web component. But then the thing is, for complex templates, sometimes you just may need to use like a library or a framework to be able to just make it a little bit easier for you. Just like with any other framework, when you're trying to build something a little bit more complex. All right, so let's take a look at an example. I think I might need to make this bigger. Can I? All right, how's that for everybody? That's cool? All right, so I'm gonna do a quick demo. So who's the greatest group, like artist group act of all time? ABBA. Okay, let's check out ABBA. Very nice. Of course. Oh, that's 2B, so hold on, give me a second. All right. Nope. They're okay, I guess. All right, let me get another group. Which one is that? ROXETT. Very nice. Okay, submit. Nope, sorry. They're okay, I guess. Now, Zeppelin, Led Zeppelin, LEDZEPPLIN, right? No, sorry. They're okay, I guess. Of course. Who? Beatles, there you go. EATLES, right? Sorry, no, that's another one. Now, when I say it, everybody's gonna be like, oh, of course. Outcast. Outcast is the greatest group of all time. And you can't tell me any difference. Yup. And you're right, exactly. So now take kind of like notice, when I click this, it turns red. All right, now let's take a look at some code. Some HTML, it's a little bit of HTML here. So we have the GOAT group, the title, then we have the who's the greatest group of all time, this H1 tag that's right here. We have this input ID, which is group sub input. Then we have this sub button. Then we have the actual, you notice this GOAT group. There's a hyphen in it, so that's weird. I've never heard of a GOAT group component like HTML tag before, so it's a good chance it's a web component. And you notice there's an attribute with guest, and then it has like a little thinking face there, and then we end off the tag. All right, so that's where the little thinking face is here. All right, so kind of like this whole section here is the web component. All right, cool. Take a look at some CSS. So we have the body, and then take a note, the H1 here, the color is green, so that's why that's green. All right, cool. Now let's take a look at some JavaScript where the interesting stuff happens. So when I do my coding, I like to get a reference to all the elements at the top just to kind of get it out of the way. And so that's what I'm doing here. You see here, I'm getting the query selector of the GOAT group, just as if it was any other element because it is, in the eyes of the browser, any other element. All right, I just want to kind of get that across. And then I'm adding the event listener to the button there. Let's see, I'm setting the attributes when you click that button of that GOAT group element. Again, it's just like a regular element. I'm taking the attribute, the guest, and I'm setting that to the value that you put into here. All right, cool. Then we have this window event listener where it has this guest event. Again, I've never come across a guest one, so that's kind of interesting. And I kind of have the alert happen. All right, then I could have put the template tag in the HTML, but since I was in JavaScript, I might as well just create an element template. I set the inner HTML to be the slot, which is where the little thinking face shows up, the H1, which is here, and then we have a div of ID verdict, which is right here. Follow me so far? We're good? Awesome. All right, so now here comes like the web component part. So this is the custom elements API. So you can see I have a class here calling a GOAT group and extends the HTML element. I did that because there's a bunch of different like elements in there. So if it was just like a single element, I could do like a button or what have you. So, but since there's a bunch of stuff here, I kind of just did that. It's like the base of what you can do. All right. So now I have the static and the get and observed attributes, and that returns an array of strings of the different attributes. And like I saw before, we only have guess. Then constructor, if you're familiar with like old school React or whatever in general, you know you do a constructor to kind of start everything off. Super gives you all the superhuman goodness of the actual elements. So you get all the methods and properties. Then we have, this is where we're going to clone it. So we're taking that template, which I did up here, the template. And then we're going to take the content of it. We're going to clone it. And so that's why I have my clone here. We're going to set the, this is doing the shadow DOM stuff here. We're appending the child to the shadow DOM, the clone. And then we have this event listener that we're adding to the actual web component. So when you click it, the color turns red. And that's why when I clicked it, it turned red. All right, then we have the connected callback. When it's added to the DOM, the connected callback is called. And I'd like to just kind of like console log stuff. And it sets the color to blue. So when it loads, it turns this to blue. Notice it turned this to blue, the H1, but it didn't turn this one, the outer application H1 to blue. Again, that's the encapsulation of the shadow DOM. All right, even when I clicked it to turn it red, it didn't change that either. Cool. So now when we change the attribute that guessed, when we click this here, it fires off the attribute change callback. So you get the name of the attribute, the old value, and the new value if you want to do any sort of like comparison. And then, again, I like console logs, I'm sorry. But then I'm checking to see if that new value, if it's empty, then I don't do anything. But else, if it's outcast, I said that, again, so it's a shadow root query selector. So the shadow root because inside the shadow DOM. Then it's the query selector, H1, and I set that inner text to outcast, exclamation points. Then, let's see, then I take the verdict, and I say, you're right. That's what that's saying right here. And then here is where I dispatch a new custom event, guest. And that's the detail. So that's one that popped up. It said, yup, in the alert. And then it bubbles up through the component. So I want that to be true. And then compose allows it to go into the light DOM. Otherwise, you can just have it kind of like in your web component and not leak out. But this will allow you to do that. Cool. But then otherwise, if it's wrong, then I set the thing to the question mark. And then I say they're OK, I guess, and all that stuff there. Cool. And then when you remove the web component from the DOM, you get the disconnected callback. And so then that's where, again, I like console logs. It's like I like turtles. A kid, you ever seen that meme? It's like, I like turtles. I like console logs. Never mind, it's fine. All right. And then here, we kind of wrap it up with the custom elements define with the custom elements API, where we then take the name of our web component and the behavior of it and kind of join them together. Cool? Not too bad? All right. Now, the overall overview is that you have your custom element inside of the user's application. You're able to pass in properties and attributes. You can listen for custom events. And then sometimes there's methods, if you want to have on there, that the outer application can call on your web component to do stuff. Cool. So, are web components still cool in your eyes? All right. Very nice. I got to remember to put like a counter on there so I know exactly if it's just not like one person or like 1,000 people. Okay, all right, no, okay. Don't worry, we still got like 20 some odd minutes to turn you around. Or is it that because they're already, you can't get much cooler, so it's been cool like forever for you? That's just, okay. All right. Oh, everybody's kind of saying, yeah. We have other opportunities to vote, so it's cool. All right, so now that seemed kind of boilerplatey, right? That seemed like a lot of stuff to kind of have to go just to make, decide who's the greatest group of all time, right? A lot of things to kind of remember. As developers, when we run into some like boilerplatey stuff, what we do is we create frameworks and tools and things, right? To kind of make it a little bit easier for other folks to use, right? And so I'm going to kind of go over some of them right now. One of them is webcomponents.dev. And what they do is they kind of compile all the different ways currently there are to create web components. Anybody want to get a guess about how many different ways there are to create web components according to webcomponents.dev? Just a odd number is fine. We're all friends here. We're not going to shame you. 15, okay. Maybe. Well, I mean, you can never have too many. It's the internet. It's infinite space. You can never have too many. Anybody else? Any other? It's fine. It's cool. Just go ahead. 36, all right. I feel like I'm playing like, what's it, The Price is Right? Like higher or lower? 1? Oh, okay. Someone likes it just one way. You like Angular, don't you? Just one way of doing stuff. Anybody else? No? Okay, cool. So actually, there's 64 different ways. So you'll be able to kind of find a way that kind of jives with the way you like to code and your style and everything. So there's a good chance you'll find something. So let's take a look at an example. All right, so this is just using plain JS, kind of like what we showed before. And it will, let me see, nope, I have to open this in a new link. Something's not going to show me the code. No, okay. All right. Cool, so now here's the JavaScript. So you see here they do the template stuff. Let me make that bigger. Oh, that's too big, okay. All right, so again, they do the template stuff here, cool. Then we have the class, myCounter here. Again, they're extending the HTML element. They set up the stuff in the constructor. They set the initial value of the counter 0, which is here. Then we attach the shadow DOM. Then we append the root here on the connected callback, yada, yada, yada. Then we get the element ID by the increment button and the decrement button, and we add an on-click event listener, and we send it to these methods here. Then we update the count, all right? Cool. Then, which was 0, so that's why that turns to 0. All right, then we have the two functions here. So again, you update it by passing in the increase of the count. The update function is here, and then that just sets the inner HTML of this. So that's why when you click this, it goes up and down. A lot of like examples that I've seen for web components have been counters for whatever reason. I think it's because you have different methods on there and things are changing, so it's pretty cool. So it's kind of like a universal way of being able to do this. So, and then again, we just custom elements define the name with the behavior. All right, so you'll be able to kind of click around and choose whatever web component framework tool that you like and kind of play around with it. It does it all in the browser, so you don't really have to worry about anything. Cool. All right. Whoops. All right. Cool. All right. So another cool thing is you saw those 64 different ways of creating a web component. And if you're on a team and everybody's doing their own thing, you know that's going to be kind of a pain, right? That's just going to be terrible. So Open Web Components basically removes your choice from you. So they have their own best practices and standards, and they have a CLI tool, which is pretty cool. So if you're on a team, you just do the CLI tool, you name your thing, it sets up the folder structure, puts all the files where it needs to be so that everyone is starting off on the same footing when you do it. So that's a cool tool right for that. All right, cool. So yeah, so Open provides guides, tools, and libraries for developing web components. And they use the lit library. How many people are familiar with lit? So yeah, from Google. So they do that. So if you like that, you can do that if you're on a team. That's what I use to generate my web components for like work. So, all right. So now it's cool. You developed your web component. It's sitting on your machine or maybe like in webcomponents.dev or someplace. You want to be able to publish it somewhere to where other people can use your web component. That's one of the cool things about web components, that other people can use it. And you can use it too, for your own projects. But it's cool when other people can use it. So you just publish it to npm, just like when you do npm install, same deal. So it's the same thing. So you can do that. All right. Now, in places where you can't do npm install, you may want to use a content delivery network. And so here are a few of them. And a lot of them they just kind of like clone stuff from npm. So you don't even have to like push to there or anything. So I use unpackage a lot, and it just does it automatically. I push to npm, and then it's available. It's kind of cool. All right, so there's that. Now let's talk about styling, because you kind of want to be able to add your own flair to web components. You don't want to always just be stuck with what the developer gave you, right? You want to make it feel like it's part of your application. So that's where comes styling. Back then, in 2019, again, shouts to Philip Beck Larson, you had the scope to shadow root, so anything, kind of like what we did with the H1, and then with you only stayed within there. Custom properties, we'll talk about. The special selectors, which is another thing. But then parts on the horizon. Well, I am happy to say that parts is here. Join me in the celebration, if you so choose. Yes, celebrate, because it's awesome. And we're going to take a look at it. Yes, celebrate. All right. Cool. So let's talk about styling. I'm going to talk about two different ways that I pretty much use all the time to style things. So there's the CSS custom properties, or like CSS variables, which is pretty cool, and then parts. All right? CSS custom properties. So let's say that in your application, you have a button. In your web component, you have a button. You want to change the background color of your web component's button. So you want to be able to do that from the roots, right? So you see that we have the hyphen my element hyphen button hyphen color, right? So that's the variable. And then the fallback is the red. So then in your root, in your actual application, the surrounding application, you can do hyphen my element hyphen button hyphen color blue, okay? Thing is, let's say you wanted to change the font color. Well, then it'd be color var hyphen my element hyphen button hyphen font hyphen color. Let's say you want to do the border radius. Well, then it's going to be like border radius var hyphen my element hyphen border hyphen radius number. So you can kind of see like you would have to do a lot, right, to be able to cover all the different aspects of it. Now, you may want to do that because you may want the person only to be able to change certain things about your web component. So that may be a thing. But me, I say let's let it fly. Just make it as weird as possible. Keep the internet weird. I'm a big fan. So that's where part comes in. So let's say in your web component, again, you have a button. You just name it part. I'm boring. I call it button. You could call it, I don't know, Edgar or whatever. I don't know, but I just kind of like to keep it same because I'm all over the place. And so I named the button. Now, in your actual outer application, the CSS, you can take the custom element name that you have, and because again, it's just a regular HTML element. So if it's like this H1 or like image or whatever, you can still just get the name. You put 2 colons, part, and the name of the part. So button there. And then you can just put whatever you normally do to style buttons in there, and it does it for you. So you don't have to worry about trying to remember all the different properties to allow a person to do it. So that's why I'm pretty excited about the button, about the part. Cool. Now, let's talk about a couple of things. Let's take a look at some examples of styling. One of the first things I created as a web component for Vonage was a keypad, right? Because again, we do like real-time communication, so you'd be able to use the keypad to maybe like dial a phone number, or if it's like if it's a voting app again, or maybe like a quiz game and you want to be able to put in the answer, things like that, right? You wouldn't have to go and recreate the input again, the buttons and listening for the buttons and what happens and everything, all that, hitting enter and then what happens with that. You don't have to do that anymore because you just put in the VC keypad and you're good to go. So that's what I was able to do. And so also I created a set of web components that you use to create chat apps. So basically, if you want to see the members, you put VC-members, you see the members there. You see all the messages of the conversation, VC-messages, you see the conversations. And to input, we have the text input for that there and the typing indicator. All of that, you don't have to worry about doing it. You just put the element there, link it up to your conversation, and you're good to go. So, but what I want to show is some of the styling that you can do. So this is the VC text input. Looks pretty cool, right? I mean, it's kind of clean. It's nice. But you know, if you want to make it look like this, for whatever reason, you can. You know what I'm saying? Who am I to say, you know, do what you got to do. All right, let's take a look at the members. Now, this one was kind of funny because let me show you. So this is how it looks. And you can make it look like that. Again, I'm not here to judge. But so you see I have the part here, the UL, right, which is outer. Then I have the part, the LI. And I wanted to be able to do the odds and evens and have them certain colors and be able to style them, right? I, for the life of me, could not figure out how to set those as parts because they're not actually there yet, right? So I couldn't name them because they're not there. They get added when the thing, right? So I had to go and use CSS variables. So if anybody ever happens to find anything, feel free to reach out to me. This is like my cry for help, but this is how I did it. So sometimes you may have to use CSS variables. All right, cool. Now, this one here, here's the actual VC keypad that I did before. But now, let's say your use case is as like a controller for like a little spaceship thing, right? So now you can make it look like this, where you can have the thing move around, you can do little pew-pew stuff there. You could do, it's kind of limitless with the type of stuff you can do. So there's that. Now, let's talk about frameworks and libraries. Do you use a framework or a library, any of these here? All right, so got some React. Okay, very nice. All right, view, other. Okay. Is other vanilla or something else? Feel free to yell it out. I'm not going to shame you or anything, but I mean, no? Okay, cool. You should never be ashamed of the framework that you use, I'm saying. All right, cool. So we got a lot of React. All right, cool. Okay, so back then, Angular, look at that. That was version 7.2.14, and that was in 2019. Angular just released like version 17 like this week. So back then, 100%. Very nice, right? Today, 100% still. So make some noise for Angular, please, because that is amazing. The team there really supporting. You may not, okay, fine. That's fine. I see you don't like Angular, it's fine. But hey, they're still doing good stuff. They just released 17, looking really good, so you can check it out. All right, now, let's take a look at, even AngularJS had super support for web components. So they've been supportive of web components and web standards for a minute, so pretty dope. All right, let's see. Vue back then, 100%, and that's like 2.6 something, right? So you know they had like the whole rewrite and stuff, Vue 3, all this stuff. So now, still 100%, yay, Vue, woo, shots of Vue. Okay, now, React. So React, that was version 16 something, and it was 71%. Anybody want to wager what it is now? 30, yes, that's awesome. All right, so React now is, actually got worse, so 67%. The newer version, that's, now, yes, exactly, we're going to talk about that. But the thing is, I want you to notice that AngularJS, a framework that Google wiped out late 2002 early, still has better support for a web standard than current React. And so I have thoughts about this, but I'm just going to just hang out. I'm not part of that fight. I'm just going to sit here and let y'all handle that. All right, cool. All right, but like you mentioned, there is. Back then they mentioned that, oh hey, maybe we'll put it in React 17, right? So they have that. They even have a tweet from a person from like one of the head people at React and said, personally, I like to think we'll get it into 17. Well, as you know, we're in 18 and that didn't happen. But like you mentioned, there is an experimental branch that has full support for web components. And that's been around since 2017, so even before the last talk. So maybe they'll put it in 19. But again, I don't have a dog in this fight. I make web components. They work in there. Y'all deal with the framework. I'm cool. So now, a really cool website that allows you to be able to, so if you didn't see your thing listed there, custom-elements-everywhere.com kind of like lists a bunch of different frameworks and libraries and kind of tests them to see, as they put it, making sure frameworks and custom elements can be BFFs. All right? So I'm kind of going to scroll through this real quick to kind of show you. So again, React, sigh. But there's the experimental version, whatever comes to light, who knows? Vue, Angular, Svelte, AngularJS, Preact, again, so Skate, Polymer. So you see in a lot of green, right? Like it's a lot of green. The only one that's not green is, and again, I'm gonna stay out of it. Cool. Now, web components were kind of like, even if you saw the talk where before it was like, they kind of like try to pit web components and frameworks against each other like early on, where it's almost like I was seeing chatter about like how web components could like replace your framework and all these other things. I mean, I'm more like, I think they can work together. So with whatever framework you choose to use, you should be able to use like a actual web component if you so choose. You know what I mean? So if you like something, you'll be able to use it, whatever. If you want to create something and want to be other people, regardless of what they use to do it, I believe you can, and web components help you do that. So I like to think of it more as a collaboration. Cool. All right. Now, you may be asking yourself, because we just saw that you can basically use it in any framework, right? That you can style it the way you want. And you maybe think, well, are web components a thing yet? And because it's the internet, there's a website for that. And so shouts to Westbrook J. He put me onto it. And so short answer is yes. Just believe me. You don't have to worry about it. Just take my word for it. No, you don't have to. So what we're going to do is I'm going to scroll down this page. And if you recognize a company logo or what have you, you're going to say ding. All right? So let's practice. I scroll down the page. You see a logo you recognize. You say? Nice. I didn't hear much over here. So let's do it one more time. I scroll down the page. Ding. Okay, yes. You see what's on you again? All right, nice. So here we go. Oh, keep going. Keep going. I know this is the last talk, but we got to, Yep, it's a long list. Yes. And Wordle, didn't that sell for like $1 billion? So hey, you use web components, get rich. Don't quote me on that. Cool. All right. So now, a couple of more examples. YouTube. If you ever took a look at like the source code, you notice a lot of things with a YTD hyphen something. So they have their own set of web components. So if it's good enough for YouTube, which is like the second largest search engine or something, I think it's good for like any other project. GitHub. When you ever do like a push or a pull request or whatever, and it says however many seconds, minutes, months ago, those are web components. And they actually released it. So if you want to use it for yourself, they're called time-elements. So if you want to check that out, you can as well. And you can see here, time-ago, and they put in the date, time, and it just renders it for you. Because as we know, dealing with date and time on the internet is no bueno. It's terrible. All right. So now, Photoshop. Has anybody played with Photoshop on the web yet? It is kind of amazing what they're able to do with it. Like this original image was like just like a square right here. And then with the generative AI, I was able to like generate all of this here. It just did it. It's kind of mind-blowing in the browser. Super cool. But with web components, Adobe has their own set of web components called Spectrum web components. So they use those as a design system for all of their applications that they create on the web. So everything kind of has like a similar feel, right? And so you can see here is that SP-button, and then that's the download button there. All right, cool. So now, you may be asking, well, why haven't web components taken off? And I like to conjecture that it's because we are the pilots. We control whether or not what we want to do with web components. It doesn't need to have a mass adoption. It's almost as if you're a pilot, you have an infinite airport, you're able to take the big plane that will travel across the world, the one that just like goes from like little islands to islands, and you're able to customize it your own way. So it don't need to have mass adoption, because that's kind of like asking, well, why doesn't the detail elements like hasn't taken off? Because you use it when you need it, right? And so I kind of want to just showcase that it doesn't need to blow up and have mass adoption. It's kind of like you creating your own thing on the web, and it's a tool that's in your toolbox that whenever you want it, you can pull it out and use it. And I'm just here to kind of show you the different things that you can do with it. All right, so I'm gonna show you some stuff that I do. So I like to make a lot of projects, right? Like a lot of projects. And I like to have like little about sections that kind of talk about how I created each project. But then it became kind of like a chore to have to do each one. So I created a set of a web component called Dwane-made that I can just put into every project. It gets the data, what I use to create the actual project. It puts it in the about, the built with, and any updates I do, so that way I don't have to recreate it. It just works every time. Also, like I mentioned before, dealing with time on the internet, pretty terrible, right? So I decided I've been doing a lot of projects that kind of like are time-based. So I was like, I'm just gonna create one web component, and that way I can put it into a bunch of different projects and use them in different ways. So like this Sunday, February 20th here, and even shows the local time, that's the same web component. This countdown timer, same web component. Even here, like these, I have an event listener that will, once it reaches the deadline, it turns into, it sends out an event that you can then say, hey, live now, and then same thing here. So I've been a big fan of them. One of the coolest web components I've ever seen is this model viewer, right? And just look at this. This is kind of amazing. I didn't have to know anything about WebXR, WebGPU, other stuff that I don't even know what they're using. And I just put in a model, and then you get that to work. But you're like, that's cool, the cute little low poly thing. That's fine, right? But take a look at this. They actually scanned Neil Armstrong's suit that went to space. And look at that. That's kind of, I mean, you can see the moon in there, right? We have reflections in the, I don't even know what those are, but there's reflecting. There's like moon dust on the bottom of there. It's kind of amazing. And all it is, you take a little bit of JavaScript, then you put model-viewer, you put the source, and then you have like alt, because, allies, accessibility is very important. And you have this working. And then there's an AR mode also, and I'll show you something that I created with that. So I thought this was super cool. And so that allowed me to make a WebXR tic-tac-toe game with audio chat. And you can go play it for yourself at that website. If you want to play a game, let me know. We can play for some stickers. I got some stickers on me. Cool. Now, let's talk about some new stuff. So these are something that I just created for work. Again, like I said, we do video call. You can make video calls with our stuff, right? So I created a set of web components to make it a little bit easier. So, like, if you want the publisher, so your video feeding into the call, you just put the video-publisher. For the video subscribers, the people who are on the call, video-subscribers, you place that in your markup. It shows up there. If you want individual ones, you can do that. You can screen share, and you can select the inputs that you do for your video publisher. So I have a bunch of examples here. And so let's say, for Angular, right? I have a button that you can just click, opens up in Stack Blitz, and you can try play around with it for yourself. So that's what I did here. I have this opened here. So I already put in, hopefully these keys are still good, but I have this, so I'm gonna save this. So this is the Angular app here. Let me refresh that. Well, I didn't have to refresh it, cool. Let me do this one here. So this is a React app. Let me refresh that. Here is a Vue app. And then here's a vanilla JavaScript. Okay. Wait, no, that's the actual Vue. This is the vanilla one. All right, so you can see the same video in different actual, oh, yeah, it's looping. So you can see there, we have them in Angular, React, vanilla, and Vue, all the same web component without having to worry about what framework you use. Because, like I said, I work for Vonage. I don't work for React, Angular, Vue, so I don't need to worry about what's happening with their stuff. Cool. Now, here are some different examples. So if you ever want to go check out some more stuff, you can. And now, how do you feel about web components now? Huh? Huh? You want to get better? All right. Okay. Very nice. All right. Nice. Nice. All right. Cool. 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 Yeah. Man, I get it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you do back end stuff. You don't even care about what happens in the front end. I mean, I understand it. I get it. I get it. All right. So I want to thank you all for hanging out. So real quick. So don't press anything that's on the screen yet, because that's going to mess you up. My latest web component that I created is a prize wheel, right? Because as my job as a JavaScript advocate, I go to a lot of different events and we give out a bunch of stuff, right? And the previous prize was like we would go to different websites and stuff and do that, but the problem was that we weren't able to, like it shows a winner, like we couldn't do anything with that. Like with our APIs, you'd be able to like call the winner and like their phone would ring or what have you. I'm not gonna do that now because I don't wanna about your privacy. So what's gonna happen is, this is, remember that same Dwane timer? That's what this is right here, so I'm using it. And so I'm gonna start the countdown and you'll be able to, so then you'll be able to click the enter button. It's gonna generate a fake name and it'll show up in the prize wheel. All right, everybody's ready? You'll have 30 seconds. All right, cool, very nice. So basically, I just created the web component. What's cool is, by being able to create my own prize wheel, I'm able to, like, because accessibility is important to me, right? And so there's different color backgrounds. You can set the color of the backgrounds. You can do all sorts of stuff, right? And I wanted to be able to have either black or white text. So I went through this whole journey, and there's like a mathematical equation that you can use to determine whether black or white has higher contrast on the color, and there's a whole lot of things. So I got an opportunity to learn. All right, so hope you got a chance to vote, or not to join. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna spin this real quick. So again, here are the methods I'm calling on it. Spin. Oh, what you're winning, get this here. I've got a bunch of socks. Hey, Emma Daniel. I know it's not your real name. So yes, all right. No, you can't. This. Oh, see that does. I'm sorry. All right, I have a few more. Let's do this again. Drum roll. No, it's whatever. Fine. All right, here we go. Spin. Oh, and the spinning is totally random. Like I went back into like high school like physics, and so there's like velocity, angle, acceleration, all sorts of stuff. So, Miss Deborah Zemlak, hey Deborah, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. All right, okay, let's do this again. So I'm gonna reset it. Again, I'm calling the reset method on there. Spin. Oh, see, it's super random. It goes backwards. Emma Daniel, that you already won. Okay, cool. Again, super random. See, now, since I can control it, I'm able, if I wanted to remove it if I wanted to, but it's fine. All right. Oh, you can set the time and everything too. So if you want to like set between like when it can and can't like spin, like to kind of. Dorothy Casson, yay, woo. There we go. Nice. All right. I got like 2 more. Okay, here we go. These are very nice socks. People take pictures and post them on social media. They're that nice, so I'm just saying. All right. I really got to set this so it doesn't spin as long. It's kind of just, again, it's super random. But I'm doing okay, right? We're good, cool. Almost. Hey, and by the way, is it like showing like, hey, it's like if you won, it turns and like, hey, there's like confetti and stuff and things? Well, Rodolfo. Hey. So you saw the confetti and stuff? Awesome. Oh, I am so sorry. All right. Lucky they're socks, because if they're like balls, or something like metal balls, that'd be terrible. We played boule. So, never mind. It's fine. Okay. All right, one more. Who's it going to? Make some noise. Woo. I appreciate the drum roll. Thank you. All right. But you can see this come in pretty handy, like especially if you wanted to do like a quick prize wheel thing. Cecilia White, yay, woo! All right, damn, okay. Thank you. All right, so again, hopefully web components have been awesome, and you can kind of tell web components don't need, whatever happened to web components, it doesn't matter because it's a tool that you use when you need it. All right, so again, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.